You said something off the air because I said, can I ask you about both the men's and women's draw and who you would like to bet on? And you said, well, you can ask me about the women's draw, but it may not be very interesting because I expect one player to perhaps steamroll the competition. Just tell us a little bit more about what you mean there with the women's French Open.
Yeah, you may know who's going to be the one to steamroll the competition if you've followed tennis at all over the last 4 years. But Iga Swiatek is putting together a Rafa Nadal-like story here on the clay. She's only lost at Roland Garros twice. One was when she was a teenager. She went to the fourth round in her debut in 2019. Then she lost in the quarterfinals in a weird match to Maria Sakkari in 2021. But she's already won this tournament 3 times now. And she has definitely separated herself from the rest of the field this year, losing just 4 matches. She's on an absolute tear. She's got the #1 spot in the world locked up by several ranking points and is coming off back-to-back wins on the clay, both at altitude in Madrid and then also in Rome. Those were both 1,000 level events. And again, if you're not familiar, the Masters, they're called Masters on the ATP Tour, WTA 1000s for the women. Those are the biggest sort of regular season tournament, if you want to call them that. There's 12 of them. And that's where a lot of the ranking points go out and influence a lot of the top, 10, 15 players. So it's a big achievement. Anyway, they've really been no contest on the clay with Swiatek, and she's also won another as well at Indian Wells, which might as well be a clay court tournament with how slow those hard courts out there in California are. So she is looking incredible right now, and I don't think there's going to be anything stopping her. There's a lot of shopping that's going on involved right now. If you go to BetMGM, she's -135 to win the tournament. I've seen her heavier at some places. Just a few weeks ago, she was, I believe, +110, +120. This line's going to continue to come down because while there are formidable competitors, right, in this field, Aryna Sabalenka is one of them. You saw in the Rome final, Sabalenka, probably the next best player in the world, especially on clay, got absolutely dusted 6-2, 6-3 in that final in Rome. So I don't see if there's any reason not to take Swiatek at this number. And if she does get to the final and she faces Sabalenka, is probably the best case scenario if you were looking to, or the worst case scenario rather, if you're looking to hedge. And Swiatek came into that final, I believe it as a -350 favorite. So it really makes total sense to take her at this number. If you want to hedge off in the final, you're going to get a huge number on the other side. And I don't think there's going to be anything stopping her from getting to the final, given she'll have her own quarter and she'll obviously avoid the top 4 seeds because that's how the draw works, and then going to face the 4th seed in the semifinals. So I would definitely go ahead and take her at this number. I would play her all the way probably to like -150. I think it's just that likely that she's going to win for a 3rd straight time.
And then, Kenny, on the men's side, you mentioned Nadal, and I think whenever somebody says the French Open, that's immediately who they think of. He is the king of clay. He's going to be back and playing this year. He's +900. Alcaraz and Djokovic, no surprise, they're the favorites. Alcaraz is +200 and Novak +300 on BetMGM. Feels like there's possibly the potential for a lot more parity on the men's side. So how would you break down their side of the tournament?
Yeah, you said it. I mean, with the big 3 getting older, we've said this for the last couple of years now, right? That there are a lot of unlikely slam winners that could emerge, and there's a lot more parity. And then Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner, 2 rising teenagers and now in their early 20s, really took the bull by the horns, won some of these Grand Slams. And there really hasn't been that much parity around them, right? It's been them and Djokovic, and Rafa's been hurt. This year has the potential to be so much different, though, because Carlos Alcaraz has hardly played any clay, hasn't played clay since it was cold out here in New York in February in the Golden Swing when they go down to South America to play some clay court tournaments. He rolled his ankle in Rio and had to retire, and he hasn't been seen on clay since. He has not played this clay season. This is, for all intents and purposes, clay season right now. It started about a month ago, and he's dealing with injuries. Jannik Sinner had to pull out with an injury last week in Rome. So those 2 guys, right? Those are the guys that we were looking at as big competitors for Novak Djokovic, and really just in general, because Djokovic has not really looked at himself really since Australia. He got obviously kind of killed by Jannik Sinner in the semis there. And now without them in the way, like, I think there's a lot of uncertainty around Alcaraz and Sinner, even though they do sit up here at the top of the odds. I think Djokovic is live to win this tournament. I also don't hate like a play on Nadal. The line here has been very weird. Again, this is the benefit of bringing me on. I've been looking at this line every week. He was all the way up to, I think, +400 when he announced he was going to play. And now he lost a couple matches. Now he went all the way back down as low as +1100 to win this tournament. I also I honestly don't think it's a bad year to just play the old guys here that have won this tournament so many times and hope for the best, because there's all the rising stars here on the men's side. Holger Rune, one of them as well, have not looked very good. Casper Ruud has had a weird clay season so far with some bad results. Stefanos Tsitsipas looked like a world beater, but then he lost to Nico Jarry, who's just a big serving Chilean. He's pretty good, but should have won that match. So there's a lot of volatility there. And I'll leave you, though, with one guy who has been my pick for the last month when he was all the way back at plus 1,500 to win, and that is Alexander Zverev, the winner in Rome last week. He got to the U.S. Open final during the COVID year. He blew it in spectacular fashion. He's always had a tough time dealing with nerves, second serve yips for years, but he's really come along this whole last year, ever since he got hurt at Roland Garros 2 years ago. He had to rehab. He had to get himself back to full form last year. And now, guys, he looks like an unstoppable player on clay. And for my money, the best player on clay right now in the world is Alexander Zverev. You can still get him at plus 600 at BetMGM to win this tournament. That's probably my favorite bet. Djokovic, though, the other one, plus 300 is at a slam with Djokovic. I know he hasn't won one, in months now, but I think this could be the time with Rafa maybe bidding farewell in one of the early rounds with the way he's looked this year. I think the door could be wide open.
How about like long term? How do you see this thing playing out? Boston's won both of their series so far in 5 games. A lot of people could see this one going the same way. Are you in that boat? Do you think they're going to sweep? Can you see Indiana making a longer series? Where are you on kind of how many games you think Boston wins this series?
I don't think they sweep, and I could really see the Pacers pulling off a couple wins. I know I'm really high on the Celtics in game 1, so maybe this is a bet you make after game 1 if you believe the Celtics are going to win. But I'm on the Pacers series spread of plus 2.5. You can get it at plus money at a lot of places. I think Indiana can sneak out a couple wins against the Celtics for a couple reasons. I think Indiana, first of all, has a much better offensive game than any of the teams that the Celtics have played so far in the playoffs. The Pacers actually have the best offensive rating in the playoffs so far. So they have the offensive firepower to match up with the Celtics at times. And we've seen a Celtics team that does struggle sometimes to hit 3-point shots. They had a game against the Cavs where they shot 22% from 3. So there are times from this Celtics team where we see a team on paper, they look great, but for some reason they just can't get the 3-point shot to drop. I think the Pacers will be able to take advantage of that for a couple games in this series. I love it at plus money. I think the Pacers have a chance, especially at home. They're 6-0 at home this season in the playoffs. They have not lost a game in Indiana. So to me, at plus money, plus 2.5, everyone loves the Celtics in the series. The series price is a little egregious, but I do like the Pacers to pull out at least 2 games in this series and get it at plus money. I have faith that Indiana's offense will at least keep them in a couple of games in this series.
Like, why do you think there's such this disrespect for Tucker? I mean, he's got the WAR numbers, like he's got the power numbers. He's having a great season. It's not necessarily that he's like the 5th best option, but it's like right now BetMGM has Soto at plus 225, Witts plus 360, Judge plus 375, Gunnar plus 450, and then there's this drop-off where Gunnar is almost double, or Tucker's almost doubled of what Gunnar is at plus 800. It's just like, why do you think if in the poll he's second in first place voting, WAR he's at the top of the list in the American League? Why do you think there's such a gap between like Tucker and the rest of the guys in the award market?
Well, I think it's a great question. I think it's 3 things kind of that combine to contribute to it. So one is going to be team success, and the Astros got off to a terrible start. And Look, money is getting bet into this stuff from jump. From day one, people are firing into this. And what I've tried to do is, at least for like the first month and a half, June 1st was kind of when I told myself, like, okay, you can really start caring almost on June 1st. Like, give this some time. And I broke the seal 10 days early. Like, I couldn't help it. I had to start caring about it because I just saw stuff that I thought was interesting, with Tucker being the important thing. So one is team success. As the Astros start playing better, that'll be neutralized, and then that won't be a knock on him anymore. But look, like, the Yankees are probably going to win a lot of games. The Orioles seem likely to win a lot of games. I don't know if the Royals are going to win like 100 games, but like the Royals have gotten off to a good enough start, I guess, where like I guess the point is the Astros had struggled. And so I think you have that as one of the 3 things. I think the second thing is just haven't seen it before over a full season at this level from Tucker, who is like number one in all the things that matter the most right now, everything. And the idea is like, just, okay, that's great. It's May 21st. On July 21st, is this what this is going to look like? We've seen Juan Soto have a season that's worthy of winning most valuable player before, and a great second half player, typically in his career. We've definitely seen Aaron Judge have a full season that's worthy of winning MVP. Gunnar, a little different, but like a rookie of the year with insane upside that probably projects as that kind of a player. And Tucker isn't those things, but he's also like not chopped liver. Like he kind of exists in this gray area of like, this type of season is possible from him. It is not crazy that he would have a kind of season like this. It's just less likely. So that's part of what contributes to it too. So team success, that, and then I had a third thing and I forgot what it was, so I totally ruined this entire exercise. But you get the idea. Those two things contributing to each other. It's just like, well, I think I was going to take those two things and separate them, like kind of his lack of putting up a season like that before that's like a winner, and some of the other players having that back class where you can go back to previous seasons and be like, no, Juan Soto's playing like this. I think he's going to keep playing like this because I've seen it before, and that's going to get built into this too. So, look, I get why he's fifth. I just think like, you know, if my order right now would probably be like Soto, Tucker, Judge, Gunnar, Witt, which I think is the same as the poll. Actually, now that I just said that, Gunnar and Judge were flipped in the poll. I think correct. I think Gunnar was third.
Gunner's third.
With that, like I think he's awesome. I won $1 million on him winning Rookie of the Year last year. It was great. I can have the same questions about him that I can have about Kyle Tucker. And I can have the same questions about him that I can have about Bobby Witt Jr. Like, just great for a season, do it. Like, do way better than what you did last year, even to win Rookie of the Year. Like, got to be way better than that. I can have those same questions. So yeah, like only Soto and Judge can escape this conversation by being like, no, like we've shown it before. Like, you don't get to have those questions about us.